Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
Hi, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
This is Caleb.
And this is Sean.
And welcome back to Romulans Bearing Gifts, episode 75. Finally, we have come to the conclusion of Strange New Worlds Season 2, the moment we've all been waiting for. It is time for Hegemony.
Oh, I'll say, just right off the bat, I've not been waiting for this ending. This season's been great so far.
Oh.
Sad to see it coming to an end.
I thought you were going to say not waiting because you've been so lukewarm on the season.
Oh, and I'll say even worse, the fact that the way that they end this makes me even more disappointed that it's over here.
Oh, yeah. But hearing your positive reaction to the season overall, Caleb, I mean, this is a little bit of a moment for the podcast because you have probably been the most dour on new Star Trek, Paramount Plus Star Trek this entire time, and you've been pining for Star Trek to kind of return to its episodic nature. So I think this is a moment. This is a happy, revealing moment.
Oh, I feel the same. I would not expect it to be here, but at this point, I feel like if Strange New Worlds didn't exist, I'd be there'd be a hole, something missing, because it's definitely earned its place.
Wow.
That's a big statement. That's big.
Yeah, it really is, actually. And again, I hate bringing up the forums out there, but so many fans seem to be so divisive on this season as a whole, and particular episodes in this season, that it warms my cockles that you don't fall into any of those more negative categories. But anyway, it's the season finale. It had been hinted all the way back in the first episode of season 2 that the Gorn were out there, and I kind of thought they would show up or at least be mentioned a little bit more before we got to the finale. But here we are, and there was a little bit of an allusion to it at the very end of the previous episode. After we didn't even talk about what happened with Pike and his girlfriend and what they were working on in the last episode, but after they meet in his spacious quarters at the end of Subspace Rhapsody, Captain Battelle gets called off to a Priority 1 mission, and people were already assuming at that point, before the finale even aired, that she's going to die and she's going to get fridged. That's what everybody was expecting to see in the final episode.
Girl, you're in danger.
The girl comes at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, here we go. And the episode starts with the Cayuga crew along with Nurse Chapel. They're, I guess, dropping off supplies at this outpost that is beyond Federation space. And it's set in this town on this planet Parnassus that is a set that I think has been used in, or it's like a Hollywoodville that's been used in other series shot in Canada before.
It's an Imaginarium town of Parnassus.
Yeah.
Oh, pull out that reference.
Yeah, and I think most recently I had seen this set used in the Wednesday series on Netflix.
Oh wow, really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't put it together specifically that show. I was getting a Hallmark Channel theme from it, but wow, I got to look close to see if it was actually Wednesday.
I think it was that series, and it's been used in some other. I can't think of the other series right now, but it's definitely been seen before in Canadian productions. And I'm okay with it because obviously it looks manufactured, like for television, not real. But I think it's another one of those Strange New Worlds callbacks to how the original series was done and produced. And I feel it's intentionally meta, as well as it just makes practical sense, out of universe as well. I think it works both ways, in universe and out of universe.
I absolutely felt it. When they showed up there, and you could feel the, 2-dimensional cardboard town that they're going into, it totally took me back to any, piece of the action. Anytime Hitler World, anytime that original series would go to the, Planet Backlot, I was like, oh, we're at Planet Backlot, just like the new version of it finally. So yeah, it was touching.
I hate to bring this up, but
Hitler World.
Well, it was, right? Remember the guy that
yes,
looked like
yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I like that they did a little bit of cover. I think they said it was like a Midwest model.
Yes.
So it's almost like it's like a prepackaged colony that they just...
Yes, that's sort of how I imagined it. But I have to bring this up because a prominent Star Trek reviewer on YouTube, they had a little niggle with this detail of this town, because as you said, like they mention it's modeled after like a Midwestern theme. And this particular YouTube reviewer just didn't like them pointing out that detail of Midwestern town setting, because this reviewer felt that term is loaded, backwards thinking and bigotry.
Okay.
And didn't like that a future Federation colony would model their community on that type of template.
You said Midwestern, which is not like that. Old Western, I think. If they landed in the Midwest, I'd love to see that, but no, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Well, they're being very sincere. Yeah, and in the cold open, there's obviously a calamity, and holy smokes, when that Gorn mothership arrives,
oh wow,
it was incredibly massive.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, people mentioned to remind them of Independence Day, or
yes,
I'm thinking of V or something.
It reminded me of the Spielberg version of War of the Worlds. Those things terrified me.
When the ship brings its own atmosphere, you got a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a hell of an opener.
Right before we see that ship, though, we see the shuttle crash land. And was it me, or did that shuttle look intentionally just really 1960s Star Trek, the way it was moving? Did you notice that? Anybody?
I don't know about the movement. I mean, the visual style of it, yes, it evoked the 60s, but of course, that's kind of how the Strange New World shuttles look.
Okay. Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it had that look, for sure. And of course, it's an important detail that Chapel had just beamed back up to the ship right before this happened, because of course, the Enterprise is made aware of the distress signal. They've lost contact with them, and of course they have to show up and see what's going on. And the first thing they see is the Cayuga has been destroyed, and it doesn't appear. Well, they can't scan if there's any life or not, because of whatever that thing is down there on the planet. So yeah, that's our setup. A lot going on. We knew this was going to be some type of blockbustery type episode, or high stakes, and there it is.
Yeah, and to mirror, I think it was the second from last episode from the first season, also with the Gorn. I was definitely once again feeling like they were doing some big reference pieces to the Aliens franchise. This time much less blatant. It didn't feel as much like plagiarism.
Oh, wait. This time much less blatant, you said?
Yes, if you go to the 9th episode from the first season, I think I mentioned in the episode that I think it's actionable how close it is to the Aliens franchise.
I agree.
Because I noticed it in this, and if this is lesser than that,
it was crazy.
Yeah, Sean hasn't seen that episode from season 1, which I highly recommend to Sean, but that one is very much more focused on the original Alien movie, whereas this episode has definite shades of Aliens and Alien 3.
Well, I disagree. I think that previous one was extremely Aliens. They even had a Newt analog that was just straight down the line Newt.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yes. So yeah, there's a bit of aliens in both the previous and the second, but this one also had, like, again, some Alien 3 added on too.
Yeah, and if you factor in Alien vs Predator 2 in the Midwest kind of setting, I was definitely thinking of that too.
Now that is something that is definitely purged from memory.
Yeah, I was about to say unwelcome reference. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
I
I know.
did not need to go there again.
I forget, what did that director do more recently? Didn't we talk about that, Caleb, on some podcast?
Alien versus Predator director.
Wes Anderson,
Wes
Paul
Anderson.
W. Sanderson, or
Yes, the one who did the PV2.
oh, it was two brothers. I don't remember their names. A couple of people that I choose to forget, but
Oh, a couple people I choose to
Yeah.
forget.
One of the worst. Oh my god.
So yes. So long story short, yes, it was a blatant Aliens ripoff, mostly. Continue.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I definitely was also feeling throughout this season, okay, like, when are we going to touch back on the gore? And I feel like it was a big enough deal that I kind of thought it was going to be the main baddie for Strange New Worlds. So it makes sense, I guess, to save it as their big finale, especially considering how they end it there. But even though this one was definitely riding that Aliens train again, I think they still utilized a lot of good space for characters to get some more play. Sam Kirk, for example, I think really stands out a lot in this episode.
Oh yeah. Once again with him, it's all been redemption for his character, and I mean redemption like in the eyes of the fans or myself. Season 2 overall, they've completely redeemed the character, made him much more three-dimensional and well-rounded and significant. And his showing in season 1 in that episode in particular was particularly bad. So.
Yeah. Wasn't he the Hudson character from Alien?
Yes.
Yep.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely a redemption here. Yeah.
Very glad. It would have been terrible if for some reason he hadn't played a significant role in this episode. So, and I guess it's just Star Trek being Star Trek, especially old school Star Trek, TOS era, because it just felt so weird to me, except in a TOS context, that Pike has to go down on this covert mission and lead it. Again, it doesn't make sense in the real world, but makes sense in the classic Star Trek world. And of course, Ortegas finally gets her moment to go on a away mission.
Her only arc for the season.
Yes, and it was nice, except once again, the only highlight of it is she does the pilot thing.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
And she had kind of a nice moment with Pike when she's like, "Oh, weren't you a test pilot?" And yeah, no, I wish they could have given her a lot more here.
But then when Pike gives her like they're in the heat of the moment, adrenaline, everything, and then he takes the moment to go, and by the way, Ortegas, I think you're really good at this. I think this is your thing.
Yep.
I like the sentiment. It seemed weirdly placed. And it reminded me of myself when I give Sean random compliments. Like out of context. But I have those moments in real life, and I do it with Sean. I do it with some people in real life. But I know I'm going out of order here. So yeah, it was still a little bit weird to me, except in Star Trek terms, that Pike, the captain of the ship, goes down this crazy high risk mission and leads the way. But then also, when they talk about their plan to put thrusters on the Cayuga wreckage to send it down to the planet to destroy the jamming tower or whatever, and when they're talking about it in the observation lounge, I didn't understand, and I've watched it multiple times now, and none of it is becoming clearer for me. Why is it Spock the only one who can do this mission?
That made no damn sense. That made no damn sense.
Because they say, how do they say? If we attach these booster rockets in a certain location, and Spock's like, I'm the only one who can do it. I'm the only person like who can do this mission.
Yeah, he says something preposterous like no human could align those, something like that. That made no
Yes.
damn sense at all.
I don't understand it.
None.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to be like, "Oh, my Vulcan pressure, I can stand being out in the vacuum of space for longer," or some bullshit. But yeah, they didn't do anything.
And when he gets out there, he just starts slapping thrusters on. I mean, he's got no laser, no compass. He's just smacking them on the bridge there. I was like, that makes no sense. None.
And I was unfortunately returned back to the Kelvin timeline. I was thinking of his Inner Darkness when he's flying around like that too.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of that again. I was like, oh no, I don't want to be thinking about this stuff.
Well, to be fair, remember that's technically the motion picture Spock flying around. So, Inner Darkness stole him flying around from the motion
That's
picture.
fair.
So it's we can sidestep Calvin and say it's still Spock flying around.
Yes, true what Carl says, but also true what Caleb said, because I had the same feeling. And I think they did it. I think Michael Burnham did it in Discovery too.
Yes, a lot.
Okay, a lot.
I seem to remember some of that. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. So look, I wasn't going to nitpick on that, but since you pointed it out,
Well, I was hoping someone saw something that I didn't see.
no, that made absolutely no sense. I mean, I try to let the physics go because as a fan of sci-fi, I like a little consistency on occasion. But okay, first of all, we got Spock flying over to a saucer section that is effectively half of an entire starship saucer section. All right, he flies over with a knapsack on a rope. Okay, so the case that's supposed to have the thrusters plural in it is at the actual size of like, a Samsonite bag, maybe something you take to college with you. He's arbitrarily just slaps them down, which they don't even sit flush on any other. They're elevated on little feet. I'm like, oh my God. So I just want to just back up and say, multiple thrusters fit in a single Samsonite, powerful enough to move half a starship saucer section, elevated from the deck, that apparently only he can align by hand. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let it go. No one sees this. It's just me. Sir,
excuse me. You are not a huge fan at least of Doctor Who, but you should have seen this one episode. What was it called?
Are you talking about Are you talking about with the Fifth Doctor, Sean?
No, Matt Smith. You're thinking, the Rings of Akaton. But I totally, because of Doctor Who, I kind of, you're right. You're absolutely right, Carl. But because of Doctor Who and all the shit that they've done, they've kind of fixed my brain to think that if it's not a horror movie, that people can, survive it like that. That being said, speaking of people and or creatures in space, the scene with Chapel and Spock and the Gorn, where they kill it, I thought that was great. But I'm a big, huge horror movie buff. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was suspenseful.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Sean. But I do just want to follow up with Carl was saying. I also was. Yeah, just kind of sitting there, just a little bit like, oh, okay, this feels a lot more sloppy than Strange New Worlds usually is. And then almost to double down on it. For whatever reason, Chapel's the only one that was surviving on the ship.
I mean,
I was just waiting for any other person, and I was like, okay, I guess this is just some plot armor.
From an emotional tension standpoint, the fact that they arbitrarily chose to hurtle the largest surviving part of the ship down as a dead weight on the planet, I would have thought that just somebody would have said, maybe there's some more crew there. Maybe we should use a warp nacelle or something like that. I genuinely thought the emotional tension of having to choose to use the saucer section as their projectile would have had a bit more of emotional weight. Never mind the obvious, I agree. There's only one person surviving. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's clumsy. I get it. There is at the very least a throwaway line. No, wait. No, there's not. Never mind.
You were just dreaming it. You're hoping.
No, because I was going to say, well, there is a line, but I guess I misremembered it. Because I was going to say at one point they say that they scan and there's only 2 life signs. But that's after the saucer has already crashed because obviously they couldn't scan until they took out the tower. So, yeah, there's that. But I want to piggyback on what both Carl and Sean said. I do like the scene in the bridge. It's well done, and it was a technical achievement behind the scenes. And I give them so much credit for that. However, speaking of like this weird thing about placing the boosters, why would one of the ideal places to place a booster be inside of the bridge?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I get it's space, and I guess that doesn't really matter, but it seems like there'd be better places on the exterior.
Seeing as that no human could position them, that dropping one on the floor in the bridge, I let it go.
That was super weird, but I get it. It's because they're trying to get to this moment for the 3. And then people pointed out that they felt that the space fight between the Gorn and Spock, especially when Spock kind of pushes off the wall, like to go towards the Gorn. There's a scene that's almost exactly like that in the animated series, where Spock is having a 0G fight with an alien that's like a golden bird humanoid creature.
Oh.
And it's in 0G, and Spock does that exact same move where he kicks off the side and comes at the alien. So many felt that was like a deliberate reference. But there's another issue if you get into technical canon and whatnot. So it's nice, the phaser doesn't kill the Gorn, but then Spock takes the dagger or whatever, and he like breaks like the face shield of the Gorn spacesuit. But it has already been previously established in Trek that Gorn can survive the vacuum of space.
Interesting.
So that's not good. But the counter argument could be, even though I know cold doesn't necessarily work this way in space, but maybe it was the cold, because they do say in this episode that the Gorn are susceptible to cold. So maybe it was more the temperature issue than a breathing issue. I don't know. It's just, I get it though. They're just trying to orchestrate the moment, because once, Spock and Chapel, exit the saucer and it goes, I mean, it's a hero shot. It's a beautiful shot. So in my mind, the writers bent over backwards to contrive this moment. I felt the payoff was worth it, even though it was contrived from many angles to get to that point.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was pretty, but it was effort to get there.
Yeah. And there's so much good in this episode that I can look past that stuff and not necessarily give them a pass, but I can just be like, okay, I'm just going to ignore the bad and focus on the good, which is a lot of the quality horror stuff on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. This is what I look forward to, is horror in shows like this that are mostly sci-fi, and they have sometimes that horror element in it. And I think this might be the only Star Trek series that does that, but I enjoyed that. I really liked it. And I think it might just be passe for some other horror fans, but I appreciate it. And I didn't like the end of this. Like, I thought there would be like a huge cliffhanger. They're going to get out of this one, but there's nothing like, okay, what's the name of the security guard? Lorna?
Lon.
Like, maybe she was in a life or death situation. Like in Dynasty, when, who was it? Crystal and Alexis get into it, and they're fighting all around the rooms. It's like, oh my God, one of them's going to kill the other one. Which one's it going to be? But no, there was nothing like that. It's like, okay, we're
Oh,
all,
wait. Now, remember, some big things did happen. For
Yeah.
starters, La'an and most of the survivors got beamed onto the Gorn ship.
Mhm.
And if you know anything, maybe you don't know the history of the Gorn, that's not a good thing. They don't take prisoners. They don't just put them in jail to interrogate them. They effectively become breeding and food. So the fact that, in the midst of what we thought was the climactic victory, they knocked the jammer down. They started to try to get everybody off the planet. Most of the villagers, including La'an, got snatched up by the Gorn. So we don't know where they will. The Gorn have them. Enterprise is getting the crap beat out of them. Scotty and what's her name? Our other engineer, Pelia, are trying to patch together some transponder cloaking device, and that's not going so well. There's a lot happening at the end of this episode that gives you some life or death tension, and of course the look on Pike's face in that moment. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. He's so cool most of the time. Not at that moment. Pike was not having a good day.
Yeah, and of course Captain Patel. I think that's one of the biggest.
Yep.
I was like, oh, I really wish they would have. Yeah, because I like this character. I've grown to really like her dynamic with Pike.
I agree. And do you all think that any of the cast or crew members will die in the next episode?
yes.
I think she's the biggest candidate for potential death. Just
Yes.
She seems the obvious.
yeah.
And the problem is that most of the other characters who are in peril have plot armor in the form of we know they live beyond this point.
Yeah.
Well, not La'an.
Not Lon, true. And who's the other one? Shoot, I thought there was somebody else.
Is Sam Kirk? Was he down on the
Ortegas.
or Ortegas? Yeah.
But Sam Kirk has plot armor,
Yeah.
potentially. But Ortegas, and they can't kill Ortegas. I mean, that would be a tremendous crime considering how underutilized she's been thus far.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. The only way I would see them killing her off is if for some reason the actress didn't want to continue with the show for personal reasons. Other than that, I can't imagine they would harm her character because I think people would lose their shit.
Fun fact, as we record this, I believe this is her birthday.
Oh yeah, today's her birthday.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Oh.
that is true.
Yeah, I just wanted to call out. I had no idea that a cliffhanger was coming, and when it did come, I was like, "Oh, this is not a welcomed return." I've always disliked the season cliffhangers, especially with a modern show, where it could be a long time till we get the next season. That's a piss off for me.
Well, it's really crazy.
What show does that, I wonder?
Oh yeah, but it's really crazy in this case because, of course, of the double strike. So
Yeah.
potentially, this may not get resolved till possibly 2025,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And even though it was annoying when I was a kid, when this would happen on TNG, and it would kill me when I was a huge fan of TNG when it was currently airing. But then I was thinking back to that time, you would normally get the finale like in May.
Yep.
And then you get the resolution in September of the same year.
That's right. It was just the summer, the same year it would roll back around. Exactly. And
it was painful then.
Yep. This is going to be ridiculous. I'm serious. I mean, I thought it was a really good, exciting cliffhanger. But as it was happening, I was like, oh, geez. Because we're not going to see this crew, like you said, at least probably until 2025 at earliest.
Oh.
And that is a long, long time considering where these characters and where the story is. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a piss off. A big piss off.
It's like the pandemic all over again.
Oh.
No, it really is. Like the way that they would.
That everything's on hold. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
then in the pandemic, we just released everything online or via streaming.
Yeah, but crazily, this whole season was filmed during the pandemic because when you watch the behind the scenes footage, you can see them all wearing masks and the crew members wearing masks between takes and whatnot.
Oh, but I'm surprised we've gone this deep into the episode without mentioning the big, at least for me, the big surprise, because I had no idea that he was going to be in this, but the appearance of Scotty in Strange New Worlds.
Yay!
Yeah, can you believe they actually kept something secret? I'm amazed by that.
Yeah,
because they telegraphed everything else in this season, but not that. That took everyone by surprise.
And it was a very welcome surprise for me.
Do y'all think that character should come back in this series?
Who, Scotty?
Yeah.
Well, apparently they're all coming back. So why the heck not? Why the heck not?
I guess no. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's like the Muppet movie. Like they progress through the seasons and they all attach one at a time. It's like 10 Little Indians in reverse. And maybe Scotty will be a regular character. Although I think that kid looked a little bit young to be older than Kirk. Maybe it's because he's one of the ones that died first. But
no, you're right. I mean, and even in universe, Scotty was supposed to be about 10 years older than Kirk. And yes, I do say in terms of that, he does look a little baby-faced for how old the character is supposed to be. That being said, though, at least he kind of resembles a youthful James Doohan. To me, he reminded me of the characterization of Simon Pegg, but with the look of a young James Doohan.
I don't know. Wow. I really loved Simon Pegg in that role. And I remember him. He's one of the few things that I remember. Wow.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I have to process that a little bit more.
Because he seemed like very quick talking, quick witted. It was totally the Simon Pegg Scotty, just without the appearance in my mind.
Now Eric said that they didn't preview this before the episode came out. But did any of you suspect that it was Scotty? I think he said at one point he told Pike his real name, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, they also talk about how
and that's never been in Star Trek before.
What, Montgomery Scott?
That's never been in Star Trek before. So okay, maybe I don't know when the reveal was. Was it when he told us his real name, or when Carol Kane recognized him as being in her class?
He said his name early in the episode, and then Pelia later talked about how she gave him his nickname.
Now, the scene with the trap. The scene with the trap is when we found out his name.
Yeah.
So
once he started talking, I was like, oh,
okay. Well, yeah, I know. I just want to know, when did you realize it was him?
Honestly, as soon as I saw the person in the red shirt, I instantly Scotty in my brain. Instant.
Really?
Even though I had no idea, no expectation, I immediately thought it was Scotty.
That's interesting. Yeah, it was the first word out of his mouth. I was like, oh, here we go. And I'm pumped.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought it before he spoke, but yes.
Yeah, I when he spoke is what gave it away for me. That's the quickest answer. I mean, when I saw the jury-rigged gadget and then a dude in red showed up, I was like, but then he spoke. I was like, okay, yeah, here we go.
I like how some fans criticized his accent as sounding fake and not as good as James Doohan's.
Oh no, here we go.
Even though the actor is actual Scottish in real life.
Nice. Yeah, well, I really like Scotty from the original series. I'm always a fan of engineers in science fiction. So I was very excited to see him and his manic genius accurately portrayed. We see his, in original series Star Trek, he always has this kind of rubber band and duct tapey, grumbly engineer about him. To see him like the younger version of that, but with the same kind of craziness, that's fun. It's fun to see the characters that we know and love portrayed in a different way, with a little bit more energy, a little younger, and in a way that's still true to the spirit. So I was very excited to see him.
Yeah, and I really liked Pelia being like, oh, he was one of my most brilliant students, but, a terrible student at the same time.
Yeah, I gave him the worst grades.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good characterization.
It's funny.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that they pick up on him more. He also becomes more of a recurring character. I think that would
Yeah.
be good for the show.
Honestly, I'm fine with any of the original crew showing up on Strange New Worlds at some point, except maybe not Chekhov.
Fair enough.
I would save him. I would save him for later, just because of his youth and everything,
Yes.
and not showing up till season 2. If they did Sulu, he would need to be like a junior officer, not a helmsman, and I would be okay with that.
I think for Sulu, we can have an AI character be him, and then we could have Carl do his voice, because Carl sounds a little bit like Sulu.
I was trying to figure out where this was going. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was trying to hear it too.
Oh yeah, I never really thought about that, but I could imagine.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Well, I thought this was okay.
Eric, were you going to go for Yeoman Rand? Is that the one you want to see?
No. I mean, that's fine, but no. McCoy.
Yeah.
I would love to see how they do his character in Strange New Worlds, guys. But speaking of Rand,
Oh, no.
I find so much confusion with her character on the message boards, whether it's by old fans or especially newer Gen Z fans. A lot of them think that like her character's name is Yeoman, like that's part of her name.
Geez.
Like they don't know that that's a position. And even though they've mentioned Yeoman in Strange New Worlds, the series, they haven't actually shown a Yeoman or referred to a character as Yeoman. And I feel like that's been missing. And this is another minor detail that bothers me in Strange New World. It's little, but it still bothers me. We've been seeing them more and more use like these tablet-like devices.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I wish they more look like the big black tablets in TOS. I always love those. When I was a kid, I used to always think the way they made the prop on TOS was they took those I don't know what you call those little boards, the ones you write on and then you can flip
like
it off.
the almost Etch-a-Sketches. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, almost Etch-a-Sketch. I always thought that those things that Kirk was signing was like a repurposed toy that was like made to be like that writing pad. But anyway, they just keep showing these modern tablets more and more, and every time I see them, it bothers me because I want them to look big and chunky. But anyway,
maybe they'll keep that triangular stylus. That's a sufficient homage.
But okay, when we get to the scene when they're in the down shuttle with Scotty Battelle and Pike, and when the junior Gorn comes in and threatens them, and then backs off. My immediate thought of why it was backing off was because it sensed that Battelle was pregnant, but human pregnant.
Oh.
I thought for sure that's what the deal, and that's why she didn't want to say what was going on. And we'll talk about it later. I thought that's what it was going to be, not only to explain the scene, but to raise the stakes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
For
that's
Pike.
Good.
That's what I thought. I totally thought. And then when she revealed like the injury, I was like, oh, darn it.
Yeah, that would have been better because it would have fed on what Pike was saying earlier when they were like, oh, the Gorn are acting usual. Why are all the young ones hanging out and not just killing each other? It would have shown more of a side of they're not just bloodthirsty monsters. Because he was like, oh, maybe we can find a way to communicate with them.
And there is something interesting going on different about these Gorn. We know that, they said they send the kids in to soften the planets up. But there does seem to be something more thoughtful going on with the way the Gorn are portrayed in this episode. That's, I don't know, it's just more contemplative than what we had the first time we saw them. So maybe there's something else going on that we haven't,
Oh, there is definitely something else going on. I think they have telegraphed in some of the dialogue already in this episode and preceding episode. I think they've intentionally telegraphed more than once that there's more to the Gorn than meets the eye, that they're not just monsters. It has not been revealed yet fully, but I suspect that's what we're going to get in the next episode, in the conclusion of this story, is we're going to learn that there's much more to Gorn society that we don't understand. I think this also too is still because we saw Gorn in their infancy in the previous episode, and you mentioned the Gorn, the young ones, softening things up. I think this is part of their natural life cycle and how they raise their young. Like how predatory animals sometimes will bring in like a wounded creature for their younglings, to like toy around and play with. I think it's part of just like Gorn culture.
Okay.
By the way, since we get our first look at the adult Gorn, not a great look, but we get something here. What do you guys think of this?
I'm glad we see a full adult finally in Strange New Worlds. I thought that maybe when we saw the adult version that we would see how they kind of evolve during their growth cycle to maybe look a little bit more like the TOS Gorn. That's not really the case.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten that we had seen Gorn in the Enterprise series during the Mirror episode in Enterprise.
Oh, wow.
And if you go back to watch that, or just the scene, it's a fully CGI Gorn.
Oh, yes.
And it looks a bit insane because of the old-fashioned CG. But you can kind of see more resemblance between that weird CGI Enterprise Gorn and this Gorn. But another thing that struck me in the ready room on this, I thought that they were CGI, even the adult ones. I had no idea that it was mostly all practical effects.
Yeah.
And it was literally a man in a
Wow.
suit. Had no idea.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, I could tell a lot of the faces, which I appreciated. You could see a lot with the baby Gorns, but yeah, also with the adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
The tiny babies are fully articulable puppets.
Yeah.
And then of course the junior Gorn, a lot of times when they're just from the neck up, they're hand puppets.
Yeah, and that's fun. Adds some more life to the horror aspect. Feels like more of a real creature.
Yeah, and they're made by I think they're called the Legends studio, which is they are what remains of like the old is it Stan Winston?
Oh, okay.
Really? That's what...
Yeah. So the people who run the Legends studio, they're guys who had worked with Stan Winston for all those years.
Wait, but doesn't Stan Winston's studio still exist? Like, isn't that still a thing?
That I don't know.
Because if some of the guys left and created their own thing, that's one thing. But I thought Stan Winston's studio still existed. So
I will check right now.
Anyway, it's great to see the practical stuff.
Yeah, and I'll just say I there's something about these adult Gorn that are just making me think of the Halo games.
Yes.
They remind me a lot of those, actually.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't love that.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, I didn't notice. I'm not that familiar with Halo, but I saw many other people point that out.
Evolutionarily, I'm still trying to understand how, beings that start off so primitive have the scientific capacity to be building, starships, communications devices, space suits, and all that kind of stuff. I'm waiting to see how that's going to make sense. But
well, wait a second. Don't even humans start off extremely primitive in their formative years?
Yeah, and they drop some lines in that early episode that like, oh, they mature super quick and they become like ultra intelligent once they reach like their teen years. But it's more, for me, it's something about just their physical bodies don't look like they'd be built well for dealing with technology. Like their hands don't look like they'd be very tactile for that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not. But it was funny though, just to see the one that was on the ceiling, continually trying to type in a code.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
I was wondering, is he just typing in the same like 2 digits over and over again?
Yeah, again, I don't know why I bring this up all the time, but one of my favorite shots in the original Toy Story is when the walkie-talkie falls off the end table and then they're trying to put the batteries back in it, and Mr. Potato Head is just holding one battery with both hands, and he just keeps like hitting it like a pickaxe. I just think that's one of the funniest visual gags like ever. But yeah, it reminds me of that. But I don't know if this is a spoiler.
Oh no.
Maybe it is. It's from the Ready Room, but
hold on to your tights,
because the whole episode of that episode of the Ready Room is all dedicated to this studio that made the creatures, and they talk about how even back in season 1, when they were reimagining the Gorn, they actually made their adult version first, even though we never see it in season 1, and then they worked backwards and got down to the little ones. So they created like the whole lore of the species way back in season 1. But this is the spoiler part, that it was suggested by one of these designers or makers of the creatures. And he says it like, oh, and by the way, perhaps the Gorn species, he compared them to like bees or ants, saying that perhaps the species has different dedicated type versions, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh no.
there could be drones, like drone Gorns or worker Gorns or nurse Gorns or whatever. So he just kind of dropped that casual hint that maybe Gorn society is spread out in that type of way.
It's getting very Halo now. Very, very much so. If they go with that, at least. Okay. Well, I'm open to it. I definitely need a little bit more. I appreciate what they're doing with the Gorn, but it's not quite there yet for me.
Well, I think it's also a thing that with Strange New Worlds in general, that they have not been afraid to take ideas from. Obviously, we've talked about aliens. There's the Halo thing. In Subspace Rhapsody, there's a throwaway line about bunnies, which must be a reference to Buffy, the vampire slayer, and the musical episode. And then another one in this episode. So when they first send the shuttle down with Pike and crew to go down to the planet, and they disguise it with wreckage on the outside, and try to pretend like they're just like space wreckage to elude the Gorn. I thought it visually and conceptually, and many other people did too. It reminded a lot of people of the Reavers in Firefly, and specifically in the movie Serenity.
Interesting.
Where they use the same exact tactic on the ship, and it looks just like how it looked in Serenity. I mean, attaching like space junk to the exterior hull, and they use it the same way in Serenity. They elude the Reavers by pretending, and even like when they bring up zombies, and which again like is like kind of reminiscent of Serenity. And some people wonder if that zombies line was also because Spock saying he'll add it to his research, which I thought was a funny line. But then people noted that, was it a reference to his biological sister who played in a zombie show?
Oh, come on.
Or not biological, sorry, adopted sister.
Which, by the way, I was going to ask for you, Sean, because I was like, this doesn't feel quite true. Like, what zombie movies are they dressing up like zombies to hide from? That's not really how that works, typically. I don't know if you had an example of it, but I couldn't think of anything.
Say again, what kind of zombies, what?
She says, it's like in a zombie movie where they dress up and disguise themselves as zombies so they can walk through them unseen.
Well, they do it in Walking Dead.
That was in Walking Dead and Shaun of the Dead.
Was it in Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. I watched that recently.
Yeah, and if you ask me if that will really work, I have no fucking idea, because zombies don't exist. So.
That's fair.
Somebody actually asked me, as if it was a science, would that really work, putting guts on your body?
Oh, no.
To walk? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm not George Romero. Ask him.
Well, I guess if they did in Walking Dead, there you go. That has its own.
Yeah, heavily in Walking Dead.
They did, and technically, The Mummy Returns also. Imhotep. But the idea of just trying to fool the zombies this way is kind of standard for zombie movies. It's just, is it the stare and walk? Is it the smearing the guts on? But yeah, trying to blend in with zombies is pretty standard.
Although in Shaun of the Dead, they didn't smear the guts on
Slow
them.
walk.
They just kind of walk through the... Yeah, they just go. Oh, they just acted like zombies.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot. Does anyone have any other final thoughts? I kind of think we've hit most things.
Not for me.
No, it's just another well-constructed one. I mean, I agree there. Certain elements that we took issue with, but overall, it was a fun episode. I mean, it just kept building and building. We saw characters we hadn't seen in a while. The exciting, we had stuff falling from space. We took out the Man of Steel Thumper. I mean, it was all really, getting very big. So it went right into that whole cliffhanger spirit in a way that didn't feel forced or artificial.
Well, I mean, I agree with Carl. There were little. We talked about some already, like with the saucer section stuff with Spock and Chapel. There were little things here and there that felt like plot conveniences or contrivances. And like, it's weird that they have this obligatory space boundary that the Gorn have established in space, even though we all know moons and planets and things still orbit. Just the jammer seemed weird. The saucer coming down, and it could have potentially wiped out those who were in the down shuttle. Scotty, like, they were so close to that. It was kind of insane. And then the whole idea of like, how much time do you even buy with these crazy plots of subverting the Gorn's attention versus if you had just done it directly? Like, have you earned yourself 3 minutes of deception? I mean, that's something, but it seemed like so much to do like a weird little thing. But I mean, even though so all I'm saying is I'm aware of all these weird contrivances. I still enjoyed it though. It didn't take me out of the episode. It wasn't that bad. But I would because a lot of people are expecting a lot from this. Because do you think this was better or worse than the season 1 finale?
I feel like because it's incomplete, I won't be able to say really until we get the next part, because this could end up being a great story, but it's just a half of it. It's tough to fully judge.
That is true. I'll give you that. But just taking the half on its own and not knowing how they're going to land it ultimately, just taking the half, I think season 1's finale was more compelling overall and tighter overall. But I still definitely enjoyed it, even as a half. All right. Do we have a unit of measure for this episode?
Crash saucer sections.
Sure. Crashed saucer sections out of 5. Oh my God, I haven't even thought of my score. I'll give it a 4. And I'll say something I did like, contrived or not. I hated how abruptly Spock and Chapel's situation ended and how it was left in the previous episode. I didn't expect that they would even have even a modicum of what do you call it? Like civility or whatever moment they had in this episode where they held hands again. I wasn't even expecting that much closure this soon. And I appreciated that as a little bit of a parting gift for the lost relationship. And then I have to just, of course, note that, they just keep mentioning Corby like nobody's business. They did in the last episode as well.
Yep.
And they continue, and we all know most of us know what's going to happen there. But 4 out of 5.
Carl?
I pretty much agree. Again, a couple of things I nitpicked about, but it was a fun episode. So excited to see Scotty again. 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments. I think it was a fun ride, a good little horror piece of Star Trek, which I always appreciate. I'm going to be a little bit more tepid. I'm going to give it a 3.5, and depending on how they conclude it, it could be boosted up. But I think it was a solid piece of Strange New Worlds. But I'll say I always have a bias against cliffhanger season finales. I always hate them, so that keeps me also from giving it a higher score.
I'm going to agree with Caleb here. I would say 3 out of 5. Also, this is a cliffhanger season, or a cliffhanger episode, so we don't know truly how the story is going to play out. This happens sometimes with 2-parter episodes. But I like the stuff with Scotty.
Mhm.
I really do like that, even though before I watched this, I would think it would be complete fan wank. So three and a half out of 5.
No, nice. Lingering details before we give our least favorite episodes of season 2. When they first encountered the Junior Gorn during like the Jurassic Park like scene, in outside the town at night, it was bothering me so much that La'an and Pike had their lights on, their spotlights.
Yep.
It was bothering me so much, but I'm so glad they at least addressed it a little bit later when they finally turned off their lights. But yeah, that was that was too much. That was too much. But yes, we're all gonna list our least favorite episodes of the season. I'll go ahead and kick it off. Everyone knows my favorite already of the season was Subspace Rhapsody, and my least favorite, or the one that I could leave out, even though there's a little bit of character work in it, but still I could leave it out as the least engaging episode, was Among the Lotus Eaters for me.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump the line. I agree with you on the least favorite, or at least the one that feels the least impactful. It's just super basic. Is Among the Lotus Eaters. Just not too much there. And I was so shocked to see that my favorite episode of the season is Charades. I think that thing was just fantastic all around. Once it was finished, I immediately wanted to rewatch it. I just think that was so great.
Wow.
So, Charades.
I would not have selected that. The way you set it up, I almost thought you were going to say Those Old Scientists, which would have been also shocking.
My second favorite, I think.
Wow. I'm surprised by both.
Me too. I was not expecting it at all.
Wow, Caleb's changing.
They're just giving me good stuff. I can enjoy good comedy if it's good, and especially if it has a lot of impactful stuff, like with Spock's mom. I thought that was just great.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch some Lower Decks episodes with you in the future on the podcast.
If I may, my least favorite episode was the one. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. But Carl, you didn't like it.
You want to narrow that down? Which?
Yeah, give us a clue.
It was the one where Uhura was seeing ghosts and...
Oh,
Lost in Translation?
Yes, that's it.
Yes. Lost in Translation. That was my least favorite. And I haven't seen them all, by the way. But my favorite is probably Charades. Like with Caleb.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, impactful stuff. But overall, a great season of Strange New Worlds. I really think that even the ones that I think are the weaker stuff, is still just fine TV. They're really delivering it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm trying to decide. I'm kind of stuck on my favorite because while I really liked Ad Astra per Aspera, the court one, I really, come on, that's classic original series. Yep. Tension and exaltation in the end. The good guys really won in a way that did not appear clear. I also love these old scientists. Again, you see, it was the technical achievement of it. I can't say it was my absolute favorite episode, but just how they managed to pull off something so absolutely unpredictable and unbelievable to execute. So well done. So I'm kind of splitting the difference between those two as my favorite. And that's a tough one. In terms of the worst, I was not a fan of Lost in Translation. That's got to win out over Lotus Eaters for me. That was an underutilization of Uhura in a way that really bothered me.
Yeah, I'd actually almost completely forgotten about that one. So maybe that's telling it. I still think it was fine from my memories, but yeah, very not impressive.
It was okay, but I totally understand from the conversation that we had as a group. I understand completely why you guys don't care for that one. Another oblique thing I was wondering in this episode, with the town and with the planet being called Parnassus and the settlement, and then if you look at the random businesses around the town square, they seem to all have like Greek inspired names, and I was wondering if all those Greek references were like a callback to the Metrons in the Arena episode, the original Gorn episode, TOS, because the Metrons, at least the way they appeared, they had this Gorn Greek like toga like appearance with the wreath on their head. And I just wondered if that was why the whole town seemed to be like somehow Greek inspired. But
I always forget about that aspect of that episode.
yeah, it was then the Metron, who appeared to be male, I think was played by a female as well in the TOS episode. But anyway, there you go. That was season 2. Man, it was the thing I was looking forward to for so long. Now it's done, and now we're gonna have to wait a long time.
Insane.
But I mean, Lower Decks season 4 is coming out really soon.
Oh wow!
And I think Discovery will be early 24. So we'll see. Some of us will see what happens there, because I don't feel like everyone here is going to watch that show. Just me and Carl are going to have struggle sessions
and Kat
together. Oh yeah, we'll see, because she's
the fan.
She legitimately loves that show. So we'll see if we have more Kat. Otherwise, it's going to be just me and Carl, and it's going to be rough. I expect, but I'm gonna do it. Anyway, that's it. Stay tuned, because random treks, en route. So, we'll go back to the old format, and there's plenty of Trek to go over. And yeah, I want to see some Lower Decks with Caleb. Maybe do some Orville as well.
Nice.
So stay tuned for all that. And yeah, and hopefully Sean continues to watch some Star Trek with us wherever it is we go.
Oh yeah, I will. This show is good, but don't go crazy.
Well, I mean, also when we start pulling out some DS9 episodes and Enterprise and
no.
Well, like I said, don't go crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're going too far. We got to go to TOS. Sean still hasn't seen any of it.
He hasn't?
No, I haven't seen a single episode since I was 5 years old.
I completely forgot about that. Oh my god. Okay, that's going to be nice.
There you go.
That'll be special as well. But until then, closing out the show today, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
This is Caleb.
And this is Sean.
And until next time,
live long and prosper.
Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
therapy corner for a second.
Oh boy.
Jesus Christ.
I don't think I would do this in real life, but you guys tell me. I haven't had it recently, but I have had a reoccurring dream throughout my life where in the dream I'm in like a zombie apocalypse type situation, or it's like vampires or it's werewolves, but it's some kind of creature that's going around biting everyone and killing them or whatever. And I've had this reoccurring dream where I'm in that situation and I'm running around trying to escape them. And what always happens is I eventually just say, F it. I completely give up and submit and just let them bite me and eat me and whatever.
Yeah.
So is that a thing?
Yeah.
Is it a thing in movies, or do you mean in terms of your dream?
No, to have that reoccurring dream, like, does that say something about me?
No, it means you're like me. Mine is usually involving a fall. I'll just let myself fall.
Don't try to fly.
That's how I die. And I've had dreams with zombies in them, but I've always escaped them.
There you
but
go.
not the fall. And it could be a fall from like, that movie Fall, or it could be like, mostly it's a fall from my grandmother's house that I grew up in the 80s off the second floor.
In my dream, I always submit, and then I let them bite me. And then in the dream, I feel like this amazing feeling of relief and calmness, like when they start eating me.
No.
Yeah.
And then I wake up and I sold the bed. No, that part's not true. But the rest is all true.
I like it when I wake up and it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, fuck, I've got 4 more hours of sleep. Roll over, Beethoven.